Welcome to Indigenous Languages Action Forum Conversations. My name is Siki Dlanga. We promote the use and development of Indigenous languages. Enjoy today's conversations. So welcome to Indigenous Languages Action Forum Conversations. We just discuss anything to do with Indigenous languages. And this past week, I think it was the Khoi Language Festival. I don't know if you are aware of it. I think today should be the last day, and it's happening in Namakwaland. And I know that you've done a film, a Nama film. Remember, it was an first animation film that uses Nama, and you wrote a book. Is that correct? So
yes,
please talk to us. So welcome, Deidre Jantjies. Tell us who you are and why Nama.
Thank you so much, Siki, for having me here today, and also just speaking about my work. I am a storyteller. I specifically focus on Indigenous stories that is not told, specifically First Nation stories of the Khoi and the San people, Nama, Damara, Krikwa, them all that fall under that Khoi and San category. And I'm originally from Oudtshoorn, Duiselsdorp, where the Atakwa people is from. So I'm a Peru girl, and I think during the time of figuring out who I am, I specifically wanted to focus on stories of my people and my heritage, and to celebrate it and not, make it become something negative, but to make it a positive space for storytelling to exist. Yeah, so I started to tell stories through film, animation, and books.
And tell us about the animation film, how you came about to do it. How did you learn the language, and what did you do, to kind of get to that place where you can make a film, an animation film?
Hey, it's beautiful to know that, the work you develop as the work is developing. So us from the Western Cape that doesn't know much about our heritage, specifically our Indigenous roots, it was, the language has died out. It has died out, but we have Namibia and Nama in the Northern Cape that still has it. More specifically Namibia, that has the language active, and also Namibia, which is Namibia.
Actually, I didn't think about that. Namibia. That's clever.
So when you even go, if like I went to Namibia for the first time to Windhoek, I was like, I am feeling like I'm in Oudtshoorn. There's no difference. You literally feel like, hi, but this is my aunties that I'm coming to visit. And the people, they talk just like I speak, not Kaaps, because I'm not from Cape Town, more Platteland Afrikaans. So when I went on my journey into figuring out who I am and what I want to stand for, and also just questioning the term colored, I started figuring out a lot about myself in understanding, why is my buttock so big? Why am I, why do I feel like an African woman and I can't compare myself to somebody, for instance, that has Indonesian blood and that has, slave ancestry, which I'm sure I also do have. But, when you look at my hair, when you look at the face, when you look at my bum, when you look at my thighs, I'm specifically from Africa.
I feel like that's supposed to be like a poem or something, or a song.
Definitely. And everybody, especially, Xhosa and Zulu and other parts, tribes, that all like to ask me, what are you? And I'm like, yeah, I must be something if you're asking me what I am.
So, because that the big buttocks is a very uniquely South African, just to be specific, even in Africa. And of course, the indigenous people, with and all those genes running across. I remember being overseas and literally feeling like something's weird. Like, why do people have no butts here?
Like, what's going on? You need a certain spice in your life. You
So
clearly were not
insecure. I
doing.
was like, what's happening? I just feel strange. Like, why, to be surrounded by buttless people.
Exactly that. I think, yeah, so on my journey of figuring out these things, I specifically started focusing on Indigenous stories and not the white lens conversation, because we've had enough of the Jan van Riebeeks and how they've stolen the land, and not the point of view of the actual people. And because, the colored community only has gangster narratives, which is like, okay, so is that the only thing that you can speak to me about? Especially because I'm from the Karoo and we don't have gangsterism there. So you're like,
That's
and
not
if
that. It's like that's not your. That's not how you come into the story. You don't relate to that story.
exactly. And also, if you do look at feature films from people that's from the Platteland, it's all white stories. And you're like, okay, now where's the stories of the brown people that comes from my community? So yeah, I actively started telling stories, and also just made sure that I break, barriers within the industry. Not knowing, because I have a flamenco background, which is very interesting as well.
Flamingo.
And
What does that mean?
Spanish dance, I studied that.
Oh, that's fun. That is so much fun.
That's
Oh,
so
it's so
what?
different, but that's so much fun.
Full of emotions, so much emotions. And but very like pretty and hair in a bun, looking like a flamenco queen, kind of thing.
How on earth did you come
But I
across that?
I
And
studied
then
it
you
in
move.
I
You,
started dancing when I was 15, 16. Maybe I started when I was 10. And then I chose it as a subject in high school, and it was a subject. Spanish dance was a subject. I think it was the only school in South Africa or in the Western Cape that had it as a subject. And then after that, bam, I went to go and study it after high school for 3 years, and I danced professionally on Artscape, Baxter, all of these theater spaces.
amazing.
So
And then you move into storytelling, Nama stories.
exactly. But I was very young because I was about 23, 24 when I was like, I don't feel like I want to do this anymore. I want to see where I go into my life. That's something meaningful. So yeah, I'm a published author that wrote 10 not Nama, I'd say Kuna stories of different clans within the Khoi in the Sun community. So if you talk about the Damara people, which is up north, if you talk about the Outeniqua people, that is from Knysna, George's area, if you talk about, I think I speak about animals as well. So there's this balance between nature, the indigenous stories of the people, and also animals, because that was how they used to tell stories, and also narrating using oral storytelling as a way to also teach and educate, specifically, because I think our kids these days are just watching a lot of Western things, and they're not really rooting themselves to who they are and where they come from. And I feel like we should, sort of monopoly, just make the most out of our heritage and educate and use that to also empower ourselves. Yeah, but
Yeah.
before I wrote, during the time that I was writing the book, I was contacted by the University of Free State, and they asked me if I don't want to submit a proposal of a
Was it
story.
because of your film?
So in 2019, the University of Free State, they asked me to submit a proposal for a project. And then, because the year before, I think in 2018, I started going into animation, not knowing how this stuff works in animation. And I created like a 1 minute, between 30 seconds and a minute clip of creating, the first story that I wrote. And they were like, why don't you submit that through? I'm like, okay. They were like, they'll give me 50,000 rand to create anything I want. So
Wow,
my proposal
that's
was,
nice.
yeah, my proposal was to create an animation series of like small 3-minute short animation film. But it's a whole story, but you're following it through these 3-minute episodes. And they were like, okay, cool. They'll give me the money. And animation is expensive. I was like, well, we have to have a small team that understands what the bigger picture of this thing is. And I got an amazing, amazing team. Of course, I produced it, I directed it, and I also narrated it. But Dev Andrew and Clinton Jones did the animation itself. The sound that you hear was done by Garth Erasmus, and then the translations, because I thought, let's translate the dialogue into the Nama words, and that was through Dina Christian. And yeah, we created a whole animation film that is actually still moving around now. And I'm just sitting here, but people are screening it. Like yesterday they screened the film. It's now it's 20 minutes for the whole film. But Darian Adams screened it in Manenberg yesterday. So that was for me
Wow.
exciting to know that. And he said the kids were so locked into the film. I also screened it at the Desmond Tutu Foundation, and they brought some kids from Strand, from other communities. And it's so amazing because it's in Afrikaans, it's narrated in Afrikaans, but Black kids that doesn't understand Afrikaans connected with it. And I was
Wow.
like, okay,
That,
we finding the balance here.
yeah, that tells you something because I mean, Nama is an African language, you know what I mean?
Exactly, exactly.
And even a lot of the Xhosa words, they would come from, and I remember when a professor from a Kukua professor from Namibia came and he was saying that he's studying, he wants to change the way that Kokoba is written because it should be written the way Xhosa is written because the sounds are the same. And I remember actually I knew some of the words he used. I was like, what? So that's that word like for sheep in Xhosa is Igusha, and it's the same word in Kokoba. I was like, what? So anyway, and even his accent sounded more like Xhosa people. I was just like,
Definitely,
wow.
definitely.
And because it's quite common in Namibia
Definitely,
to speak
definitely.
it.
I mean, the Khoi and the San and the Xhosa people has a big connection because, when they moved down, they, of course, took in the cliques and also certain parts of the traditions that the Khoi people had. So we are very much connected to each other. We can't run away from each other because we are
Mm.
brothers and sisters and cousins and distant cousins from each other.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this is why if you look in my animation, the shades of brown is so important for me, and also the texture of the hair. I'm like, I need to see. We call it a pitakop, a child that has like my type of hair. We call them people with pitakopa, and
Critical.
I wanted that to be embraced. I want to embrace that
Mm,
for
mm,
kids
mm.
with my kind of hair. There's also that racism within Cape Town, very
Yeah.
much. I spoke
Yeah,
about
I learned that in Cape Town.
such a
Mm,
big thing,
mm,
and to sort of empower kids that looks like me, because it's a battle of beauty. What
mm.
is beauty? So yeah, I
Yes.
specifically wanted to make sure that kids that looks like us are proud of who they are, and that doesn't
Mm.
need to be unapologetic.
They
And
don't have
also
to
to
feel
make
like
that
they have to be different in order to be beautiful.
exactly, and they don't need to straighten their hair in order for them to be beautiful. You
Mm,
know, they
mm,
can just be themselves in their beautiful brown, dark shades, in whatever shade they are, with their most coarsest hair,
mm,
to just be proud of who they are. Yeah, and so now that the film is moving around, and the book is also it's nationwide. I'd love for it to be translated into English and also other languages.
So the book is in Nama.
So no, it's not in Nama, it's in Afrikaans.
Oh, okay.
So I use a lot of Nama words within the book. It was also very interesting to, because Afrikaans is also very standardized. And myself and the editor and also my mentor, we were having a bit of a, this is not how we speak within the Afrikaans that we have.
Yes.
And so I had to make sure that the dialogue was specifically spoken how we speak.
Yes.
So
children can connect from the community that you're writing to.
Exactly.
They can connect with their own language. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's such small things that I was just like, and also just introducing Nama words within the text goes, even if it's just one word, and the kids hears that the child's name is Kurin Karis, and they're like, huh? What is that? That's interesting. So
I
you have
love
to
that. Kurin Karings.
Within like small subtly, we're trying to sort of win over people by introducing not too much information, but like small bites of a big chunk of what we can sort of give in the future. But yeah, I think I'm very proud to know that I also have a great publisher that is attached to the work and that still wants more of my kind of work. And I think I'm also developing the work is as I am growing, the work also grows and becomes second nature within the spaces that I step into. And I'm also very proud to, say my ancestors has chosen me to represent the work. And people can see that when I'm in the space, because it's just, this is who I am now. And yeah, I'm busy with a feature film now that got into, my first feature film. I'm very proud of it.
Well done.
Thank
You're
you.
very, like, you really move. You're like,
I time to still sit. I'm like, okay, that film is done. We're gonna be ready with the next one. And specifically, this one got into Venice International Film Festival, which is one of the biggest film festivals in.
That's huge. Which one is it? Is this the Nama, the Nama short film? Or
No,
which one?
That's the feature film.
The feature film.
Yeah.
Oh, so you've done it already.
The Nama film is done. The animation film is done.
No, I'm saying the feature film. So you say it's already in.
So
I thought you're still busy with it.
No, we're still busy with it, but it was the only feature film during the time of our post-production phase that got into Venice International Film Festival final.
That is amazing. What is it about? My goodness.
So it speaks about rooibos, and it speaks about land, specifically in the Cedarburg area. So it's about this young girl it's a coming of age story, but a young girl that has to make a decision about taking back the land of her grandfather and learning the roots and understanding the rooibos and how to sort of farm rooibos and harvest it, and also continuing that legacy, or letting her grandfather sell the land and it becomes a golf estate. So it's like very, very rooted, real stories. But I say to you, this film is so, so beautiful. We won.
And what language do you use then?
It's in Afrikaans. It's
what kind of Afrikaans do you use?
It's very much, because there's different kinds of Afrikaans. If you go to the Cedarburg area, their Afrikaans is very different to if you go to the Kleinkara's Afrikaans. But I think specifically because a lot of people still speaks Afrikaans, and a lot of people in the colored community speaks Afrikaans, and people don't know that white
Yeah, no,
people.
I mean the stats just showed that Afrikaans is, I mean, it surpasses English in terms of the number of people that speak it as a first language. I think it's in the
Exactly.
top 4 most spoken languages in the country. But I was asking specifically what Afrikaans are using, because when you're telling a story, it doesn't matter whether it's a Zulu story or a Xhosa story or even an English story, that the language that's being used, or the English that's being used, is going to be specific to that region. And so I'm just curious what, like, if you're using any regional Afrikaans, like,
So, I don't know if you know where Wuppertal is.
no, but somebody
Mm.
will. I'll Google it.
Klein Willem.
No, I don't. Which province?
It's Western Cape. It's Western Cape.
Okay. Is
Western
it
Cape is big. It's huge. And
uh,
people don't even know about Wuppertal. It's a small community that was a
oh.
Moravian community.
Oh
Very
yeah. I've visited
small.
some Moravian small towns. Okay.
So it's still very Afrikaans, but like the accents are different. And also the words that they say, like, how people would say, how do I say, like small words, like they'll say if somebody upsets them, they'll be like moerskont, hierdie moerskont, they're like moerskont is like this cunt, but like this, sometimes you can't explain these words. It's just like, look at this little cunt. But it's a word that you don't find anywhere else, because I know if I'm going to Duitsland, we don't say moerskont. We don't say words like that.
Yeah.
So it's fun to know that the world, and when you watch it, somebody said we had a screening with just friends that we invited, and this girl, she's like, it made her feel like home. Then I was like,
Wow.
then I asked her, oh, are you from a small town somewhere in the Western Cape? She's like, no, I'm from Mitchell's Plain. And I'm
What?
like, huh? Oh. So
Wow.
even though it's Afrikaans, I'm sure that if you're going to watch it, you will also feel a certain essence of realness, specifically because the land is also a language on its own, and the landscape, which not a
Yes.
lot of people understand, specifically people that's from Cape Town, they wouldn't understand land.
Yeah.
People from small communities
Yeah.
that from outside of the city life, we
Yes. Yes. They
understand
understand space and land.
we understand land and fresh air and
Yeah.
richness, of
Yes.
community. So very exciting for that, and to make sure that I'm still, representing the colored, indigenous, Nama, Damara, whatever you call yourself, because
It's
these
so
days,
interesting because the word colored's been trending ever since Tyler
true.
internationally, and it's created quite a debate. So I feel like your stories are really going to be really important to really kind of show the diversity of what the diversity is, because you know what I mean.
Mm.
You've got different language groups that you represent even within the Nama, like with your stories and the regional, like even just how you explain, even on the animation story. So I think you still have so many stories that you are going to be telling, and just amazing how you just quickly moving on to the next one and telling, and then writing a book, and then creating animation film, and then doing like a film, and then you going to Venus. Hello.
I'll be back. I'll be like, oh no, I'm busy with this. Sometimes people get confused with me. They're like, but weren't you talking about that? And I'm like, yeah, but I'm here now. It's still happening there. It's
So
but
good.
I think that's also what your work does. I can't hold on to it. It
You let it
needs
go.
to yeah, I need to let it go so that I can move on to the next. And I mean, my next film is also a beautiful, beautiful film that is being written. And it's a co-production between South Africa and the Netherlands, where we talk about the second slave uprising that happened in the Kobokkeveld. And
Wow.
so that's a period piece. And I get chills every time I go, oh my God,
And
that's a proper true life
we haven't
story.
done those in South Africa. We haven't gone there.
We haven't. And for a brown, a colored indigenous woman to be like, I'm producing that. And it's exciting sometimes when we sit amongst, other people that's production houses would be white owned, and then like you'd expect for them to be the ones that, tells that kind of stories. But then I'm like, yeah, well, we also here, and we are unapologetic, and it's exciting to just be who you are, not try and fit into a box that you don't.
And the thing is, the perspective where you're telling it from matters. Like how you tell a story, who tells a story is how a story is told. It gives a specific lens, it gives a language, and certain nuance that you're not going to get when it's told by somebody who's not coming from the story, and understanding all the different layers of what it means. It's like almost like bottom up versus top down. You're coming from the top where you don't understand oppression or anything like that. You're going to tell it one way. And if you're coming from the bottom, and that's part of why we do language here. We talk about language from the perspective of people on the ground. So we do care about the nuances, like the nuances that come from even, some people call it dialects, some people call it, whatever, but they are all so unique. And I really feel like they're part of what gives us creativity. And because if you make everything just monotone, like one, you standardize it, then you lose a lot of the sounds, a lot of the nuances and the stories that are even in between those variations, because within those variations there are stories as well, and they also land, there's places and people and how they lived and who they interacted with and what they bring to the world. And and as somebody said, that when you lose a language, you lose a perspective in the world itself as a whole. It's not just those people who come from that story who lose the perspective, but the whole world loses that perspective, because we would all learn from one another's perspectives. And I really enjoy this about our country, that we want to encourage the diversity of everybody engaging in their, bring something new, says, hey, this is, this is what I have, and you guys haven't heard this. Yes. And then everyone's like, oh, okay, let's hear. So thank you so much for your time. I want us to talk again next year.
Definitely. I'm sure there will be something else to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, your work is so interesting, and please tell us when you're showing your film, your Afrikaans film. Really love to see it. Hopefully it's going to be accessible, because sometimes so it's a feature film, like a long film.
Full 90 minutes.
Wow, that is impressive.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
It took us 6 years. 6 years of patience.
Well, that's how long, it should take, because it's like you're birthing something from, and you're working with so many different people and space and production and money and this and that. So I'm really looking forward, and congratulations. Thank you so much for being so kind to listen to us, to talk to us, to share what you're doing. You're doing such exciting work. Oh my goodness. We would have never found out how much. We were still stuck on the number film.
I was also like, I didn't know. Are we still speaking about this? But it's exciting for us to still speak about this, and I'm very grateful. But I think, the work, knowing that it still exists even after it's been created. We created it 2 years ago, and it's out, and the book is out a year now, and for it to still move as it should.
It should. I mean, we're still talking about Shakespeare,
Exactly. Oh yeah, I also want to tell you it next year I turned the first story has been turned into a theater play. So that's gonna be
Wow.
published next year. And
Wow.
that's
This is
also
great. Great, great. Please tell us, share with us, tell us what you're doing, want to follow you, want to share with other people. Yeah, there was somebody on our page who was also wanting to know more about Nama. I think they're doing Nama research. I think they are in that universe in a Salt Lake University. They're
ah
doing so maybe I can connect with you with her. I don't know,
definitely.
but she's looking for information or maybe Nama community that you can connect with as part of her research. But I'll ask her then if she can email you.
Definitely, definitely. I'm very open to that. I'm in contact with a lot of people, like Dina Christian. She translated the Nama for me,
Wow.
and she, because there's people out there. Oma Katrina, for another project that we're working on, she was our cultural consultant with regards to language with regards to the story, and that's I know that I don't know if you remember Nadine speaking about the project that the two of us are working on about the coming of age of when a young girl gets her first period. She undergoes this sort of ritual. She goes to sit in the hut for a couple of days, and she sort of groomed how to become a woman. So Oma Katrina, there's people
That's
that
so
can be
interesting. That's so similar to Xhosa culture and I think Zulu culture. I think they also have that ritual, but it's like some people still practice it, but some don't. But that's wonderful.
exactly.
That's really great. So are you gonna be doing those short films? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
all
that's also in the future that we need to sort out. But like, getting cultural advisors, getting people from the community to also advise us, and especially our elders, that kind of systems that we used to have in place, and how you also come into a space. You don't come there with a lot of tracts and stuff. You go to the elders and you speak to them and you ask them for permission. And you don't come with a lot of people, you come with a small group of people. And we are here to tell the story with the people, not about the people. We're working with community. Yeah, that's for me just also very important these
yes. I
days.
mean, that's how you learn. That's also about transferring language. It's intergenerational. You learn a lot through that, and something that we're really going to focus on next year on language transference because it's just very, very important that a lot of people start moving away from transferring the language and then there's just so much lost between the generations. But thank you so much. We're going
Thank
to have to
you.
land this exciting plane
Yeah,
right here, right now.
before I start talking about something else.
Oh
We
no, we'll continue next year. Don't worry. This
will
conversation
definitely.
is not over.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate your time and wow, 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 wow. And congratulations and we're gonna be on your case to share what are you doing so that we won't be missing in action. All right.
Definitely.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much,
so much.
Deidre. Appreciate you.